AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
My daughter's name was Hazel Ray. She looked just like her mom. She had the same face. She even had the same toes, where one toe was a little bit longer than the other, that I always made fun of my wife for, and which I ended up being kind of jealous of. But later, I discovered that I have a weird genetic defect with my fingers, and she also had crooked pinkies just like I did. It was really, really cool to find that.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us.
Well, Tad, thank you for coming on to the podcast with us, and thank you for coming and sharing your daughter Hazel's story and legacy with us. Just off the bat, your daughter was stillborn at...
She was on the 36th week.
36th week. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for coming on and talking to us about Hazel. Tell us a little bit about the birth story.
Sure. So that day, my wife was working as a nurse at the time, but she happened to have that morning off because she had a doctor's appointment that morning, and everything actually looked great. I was working as an IT guy and just doing some work at home. And it wasn't until about, I want to say 5 or 6 o'clock where my wife realized that she hadn't felt Hazel move for a while. That, okay, well, let's not worry too much about it. Let's eat some sugary food and, just kind of try to relax and watch TV and see what happens. But then nothing really changed. So it was at that point that we went to the ER. And keep in mind, this was the summer of 2020. So right in the middle of coronavirus. And when we got there, they took us up, and fortunately I was able to be there, which was really, really, really good. But yeah, we went up and had the little ultrasound done, and you could see Hazel's heart, and it just wasn't beating. So it was very odd, where my wife, pretty reserved as a person, just kind of broke down. As in like loudly, she really just, it affected her very strongly. I more or less went into shock and just didn't say much, just kind of sat quietly, just kind of centering myself. The experience was very different for the both of us. We digested the entire situation very differently. So, and then we got checked in and called family members and just told them what was going on, and they were all in town the next morning.
Quick clarification question.
Yeah.
You said in the evening you guys went into the hospital. How long were you guys waiting to be seen? Was it a long wait period?
So when we showed up, the ER was pretty much empty. So it took a little bit of time to get a hold of the actual, pregnancy unit.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was less than an hour, and we were given the news by the time we showed up to when it happened.
And like you said, it floored you to find out that news. How long were you guys, after you found the news, found out about your daughter Hazel's not having a heartbeat, how long were you guys in the hospital? Was it
After we found out, they moved us to a room and we stayed there until, so we got into that room at about 10 p.m. And then the next evening is when Hazel was actually born. And then we left the next morning.
Yeah. Well, we'll go over that in a little bit. So you guys didn't go home when
Nope.
you no? Okay.
Nope. We fortunately we had already, for some reason, and I don't know why, when I had quite a bit of intuition through the situation where when she said, "Hey, something's not right," I didn't have that feeling of, "Oh no, it'll be fine." I just, for some reason in that moment, I feel like I just kind of knew. So, I put on clean clothes. I packed the
overnight
the
bags
pregnancy
and stuff. Yeah,
bag,
the
I
pregnancy
guess, whatever
bag.
we call it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we were prepared. We had no reason to leave. So, yeah, we just went in and stayed.
And you said that you called family, briefed them on what was happening. Was anybody allowed to come into the hospital with you? And mind, this is during the COVID pandemic,
Right.
so a lot of hospitals say no, absolutely nobody.
Right. So for us, we were pretty lucky because, like, when we walked into the ER, it was vacant other than just the people. And as far as even the hall, when we got to our room, it was not even half capacity. So for some reason, the hospital, I feel like they might have given us a little bit more leeway than most. For whatever reason. Maybe I'm just feeling that. I really don't know. But we sat down, after we called them and everything, the agreement that we had was people can come in, but we only want to have like a party of maybe up to 3 or 4 at a time. So like my mom and dad and brother and sister-in-law had come in. After they left, my wife's parents and brother came in. And then there were a couple other people that had come in as well.
Okay.
But it was just, very small parties at any given time.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for clarifying that, because it's, with this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, it's really interesting to, across the world, across the nation, it's, it's different protocols for different people,
Right.
different areas, I guess would be. So thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So,
and we're in a smaller town. So not real small, but, small enough that we just hadn't really been ravaged like how some other places had. So they weren't as concerned, I don't think.
Okay. Well, thank you. So the hospital staff take you into a delivery room where you guys tell us about that.
Yeah, it just felt, it's hard to really recall that since it was still such a moment of shock at that point. We kind of, we walked in, we were pretty quiet. We really just kind of let whatever we were feeling just kind of be there. So, we went in, and at this point, like I said, it was 10 o'clock. So really at that point it was like checking in to go to bed, really.
Yeah.
So, my wife was over on the bed and we just made room and we both slept on that hospital bed together. Well, slept. I didn't sleep.
Cried your
She
eyes
didn't sleep
out.
much either.
Cried your eyes out during the night.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't cry like that. So it was very, yeah. I didn't go an hour without breaking down in some way. It was very, being in that room for, ultimately, 30 hours or so straight. It was just, sense of time and self was very, very off for us at that point.
They had Taylor hooked up to medication to help induce labor.
Yeah.
How long was that? How did that go? Was it a pretty quick process? You said you checked in at 10 o'clock into that room, sort of slept through the night.
Yeah.
Morning, things started happening, or when did?
No. So since she was 36 weeks, they had to induce her, and it was, I guess, some pill that they inserted, and it was placed every 6 hours, I believe. So it was something that could have maybe it sped up the process, but they had to manually break her water and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in there for a while because 10 p.m. rolls around, and then it wasn't until about, I want to say it was give or take 6:35 p.m. when Hazel was born.
Mm.
So, yeah, what is that? That's
It's like 20 hours.
About 20 hours,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Like you said, it's a small four walls, and your mind races through everything. It's a horrible prison that you are in. So,
Yeah. With my wife's current pregnancy, we're very aware that we're going to do everything we can to not be in a room on that side of the building, because even if it's a mirror image of that other room, sitting in that same environment for an extended period of time during something as stressful as a pregnancy, we're very aware that that's something we want to avoid.
Yeah.
We don't want to mix tragedy with anything else that they'll be going through.
let's talk about the delivery.
Yeah. So she after she got the epidural and everything, it went for a while, but we knew that just how things were looking, that a C-section wouldn't be necessary. So I actually think that the epidurals had started to wear off right before that actually took place.
Yeah.
So I think it might have actually been to her benefit to kind of actually help her kind of feel what was going on and be able to respond to it appropriately. But yeah, she was able to go through, and just other than the epidural, it was just, it was a typical vaginal birth. And yeah, I will say that this is the one time where I probably feel the most guilty of any time, because my wife, she almost prides herself in, I kicked birth's butt, man, and but I was just kind of, she thinks I was like dissociating, but for me, it was like every moment was a painstakingly slow moment of, wow, I'm about to meet my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to meet my daughter. And then, so the joy of that juxtaposed with, I hope she looks okay, because it was, I don't know, for whatever reason, that was just like the only thing that was on my mind.
Yeah.
But when she came out, she looked perfect, really. I mean, we have pictures of her, and she looks like just a baby who's sleeping,
Yeah.
It was just the craziest thing.
Yeah. Now talk about your daughter. Oh, she, 36 weeks. She's full term, but she's on the new side of full term. Was she?
Yeah.
I don't want to say a large baby, but was she a big baby? Was she?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly how much she weighed, but I mean, her length, she was, I want to say, we had some friends who had their babies at, 40 weeks, and she was just as long as their babies were. I mean, she was a good sized kid, I don't know. My wife's not that big or anything like that. So she must have just picked up on my side of the family.
She got it from you.
Size.
And
so
did she have hair, lots of hair, a little bit of hair? And
she had a fair amount. Yeah. I was a bald baby. I had some hair, but it was blonde, so you couldn't really see it. For her, it was brown. Since it was wet and everything, it was kind of hard to really tell. It seemed like there was like a little bit of maybe an amber color to it. Her hairline was right in the middle of her head, which I'm assuming she would grow into. But yeah, she had plenty of hair. It was cool.
Yeah. And you mentioned that she had your wife's toes and your pinkies.
Yeah, my wife has, her big toe is not her biggest toe, where the one right next to it just shoots out a little bit further, and I've made fun of her for it for years. And my wife, whenever we saw Hazel, she's like, Dad, look, she has my toes. I told her, well, I guess we thought she was perfect, but she got your toes. Finally a moment to lighten the mood a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, she had the shape of my wife's face, just not round, but just kind of I don't know how to explain it. It's just she had the same shape of my wife's face, looked like my the pictures of my wife when she was a baby, really. But then yeah, so I was a little jealous because the only thing I saw was this baby looks like my wife. This baby looks like my wife. It's my daughter, so glad to hear that. But
Wow.
yeah, then we discovered she had the same crooked pinkies that I do. So
Yeah. Well, you married your wife for a reason, so you'll
Yep.
just be more endeared to Hazel because
yeah,
she looks like your wife.
it wasn't for the toes,
It wasn't for the toes.
but I'll take him.
Well, wonderful. And then the stay with your daughter and your wife in the hospital. How long? You said you guys were there for how much longer after the birth of Hazel?
When they wheeled her in, they had the cuddle cot, you
Mhm,
know, the basically a bassinet that has a cooler underneath it. And when she got wheeled in, you know, we all had a chance to hold her and stuff. Like my brother, my mom, my dad, us, my wife's parents. So we were there for a while, and we actually had an organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep.
mhm.
They showed up. They take like professional pictures of stillborn children that we still have. And whenever we were kind of carrying her through all that stuff, it was cool because it felt like it was like the one moment of joy that we actually
Yeah.
had. We were able to enjoy having her with us there, and you know, it was kind of to the point though that uh, it felt like just the hyper awareness of wanting to maintain her as much as we
Mhm.
could, that we probably could have kept her longer, but yeah, we had her for about 5 hours, and we just kind of realized, you know, there was like just like a small bit of a degradation. I think like there's like she had like a runny nose or something, and it just
Yeah.
we just felt like this time we're spending with her right now is wonderful, but it just feels like it's time for her. It just felt like it was time for her to go. And through any given moment that we had with her, the whole process of all of this, that was easily and still stands to be the hardest moment. And just knowing that it felt like this was a decision that we had to make
Yeah.
rather than something that was happening to us. And we were together. But just that moment of, okay, we're ready for you to take her back. And that, uh, that feeling of, oh, no, wait, we're not so sure, but just still wanting to respect the integrity of what she is, which is the most beautiful thing we'd ever seen. And we didn't want to disrespect that in any way.
Yeah.
Not that, you know, we couldn't have had her longer, but it just felt like the appropriate thing for us to do.
It is such a hard in our situation as well. We talked about it. It's like, you know, the inevitable is they need to go, you know, this is a body that is deteriorating. Like it's dead and it is decaying and it is not, you know, over time it is before our very eyes returning to the earth. And it was the hardest decision for us to say, you know, how do we want to present our son for them to come take him? And it was
Exactly.
like, you know, as a parent, you never want to do that. You never want to give him up. In the back
Yeah.
of our minds, it was like, you know, we can keep him forever, and just stay in this room forever. But there's a time and a place that we said this is how we are going to present our son for them to take him
Yeah.
to the mortuary. So
We really, because we discussed it, we just knew we want her, but it was, we had gotten the things that we wanted to have. You know, the family held her.
Yeah.
We got to hold her. I held her more than I probably wanted to, just because, you know, I saw that feeling of she's cold, she needs to stay cold. That's better, but just that mental awareness that
Yeah.
I might regret not holding her more. But you know, we had that. We had all those pictures taken of her. Um, I'm really good friends with the priest here in town. He's like a year or two older than I am. So he came down and he gave her the rite of unbaptized infants and everything. So it was, I mean, we had everything we could possibly want. We didn't want to spoil that moment. We wanted it to be the best thing that it could be, and I think we had it.
Wonderful. It's always one of those. I remember thinking, are we going to regret this? Are we, should and it always will be in the back of our minds for the rest of our life. So it's hard, it's horrible, it's terrible giving your child over and knowing that it's the beginning of the end. Because in our situation, we had to contact the mortuary, and the mortuary came, and that was another step towards the end.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Did you guys have a service? Did you?
Yeah.
For your daughter?
So we were really, really fortunate because my dad's mom, she had, I don't think she was, I'm pretty sure she had retired at that point. But she'd been working at a funeral home for forever. So she had connections and everything. And so we didn't have to make any arrangements whatsoever. It was pretty much, she reached out to the head of the funeral home and just got all the right stuff lined up and knew exactly what would need to be done and just kind of took care of it for us. It was really nice. The only thing we had to figure out was, what the headstone was going to look like. That was really the only thing we had to worry about. So between that and that same Father Michael, who I said I was friends with, he actually did we had a mass for the funeral service. Mm-hmm. We're Catholic. And actually a good friend of my wife, who she went to prom with when she was younger, he became a deacon. So the night before her funeral, because she passed on Monday, born on Tuesday, and the funeral took place on Friday. Her friend Chris, after becoming a deacon, the first thing he did was he drove back over to where we lived, and he participated in the celebration of the mass.
Oh, that's so nice.
So,
now how far did he have to travel?
I'm actually not sure.
Like 3 city blocks or a while?
He was not in the same town. I'll tell you that much. I'm assuming it was a number of hours. That's my understanding. How many? I'm not so sure.
Well,
it wasn't a small thing to make it back, I don't think.
That's very nice. So,
yeah.
Now the service, I'm assuming you guys were there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a small, because this is still COVID.
Right.
A little bit smaller. Was broadcast to anybody who wanted to watch it as well, or?
So that was actually another one of the big moments you're kind of surprised about. Is our plan was initially to go have it in my hometown, which was a town of about 700 people, so it'd be real small, and we expected it to kind of just be us and, maybe a couple other people, but we kind of put out there what happened, and we had and decided, well, maybe we'll need a little bit more people because the church in my hometown, it has 4 pews on each side. It's not big. And unfortunately we had it in our current town because it was roped off every other pew to, maintain social distancing and everything.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people there. It was about as full as I think they could reasonably have it. So a lot of people, I had friends we live in the middle of Kansas. I had a friend from the middle of Oklahoma drive up, and a couple other people from Oklahoma as well. Yeah, it was a good number of people.
What a wonderful outpouring of love for you guys, you and your wife.
I mean, we weren't expecting probably even a quarter of what we had. So it was a really, really, really good thing.
The mass, you guys go to the cemetery. Did you have a graveside ceremony as well?
So after we finished up there, one of the reasons why we were going to have the service initially over at my hometown is because we had some family plots over my hometown. So after the funeral was over, we had about a 45-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
And what we opted to do was we just, because I carried her casket down the aisle and I carried it back.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was tough. But after that, we just kind of decided that it would be the best thing if we could just keep her in the car with us. So rather than having anything, the hearse just led the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the hearse did. My wife got in, she buckled up. We just put the casket on her lap, and we had a nice 45-minute drive. And we don't go on big fancy vacations or anything like that. Our thing is more of kind of little day trips, short trips here and there. So that turned out to be one of those, probably the best 45 minutes of my life, really. So, I mean, we drove, we played music, we just kind of embraced life together as a family.
Yeah, you had togetherness. You had
Yeah.
togetherness.
In a way that I never would have expected we would have gotten.
Yeah.
It was just a happenstance that really meant a lot more to us than I think we would have really expected.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure by the time we got to the cemetery, people thought we were insane because we were smiling. Because we were legitimately just, we got exactly what we wanted. Our daughter, we had these precious pictures of her that we would always be able to hold dear. We were able to go to mass with our daughter. That's something that, and then we were able to go on a family trip. What else would I want?
Yeah.
And as a religious person, being gifted a daughter, we're not entitled to anything. Like, just having her is entirely a gift, a blessing that God extended for not necessarily as long as we would have liked, but that's not going to undermine how much time we did have.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just, is probably the closest thing to her joy I think I've ever had in my life. So, but yeah, we got to the cemetery. We had a plot right next to where my grandparents will be buried. And since there was a 45-minute drive, we lost a good chunk of the people who were at the actual funeral. But once again, my friend Father Michael, he had one final prayer, and then we all just had a bunch of helium balloons and just kind of released them all together. And then we spoke with everyone that came and told them how much it meant to us that they were there.
One of the greatest things was being able to lay my son in the earth, because it was my last act on earth that I could give him.
Yeah.
Was to bring his casket, sort of like you. He rode with us, and from the funeral home to the cemetery, it was no 45 minutes. So it was one of the last acts on earth that I performed for him, and it was such a hard yet wonderful thing for me to do. So
yeah. And it's not until you're in a situation like that where you realize how much that a moment like that could mean.
Yeah.
Which is why when we were at the funeral home planning who do you want to be the pallbearers, I just kind of knew I am going to be that.
Yeah.
Not that I wouldn't trust other people to do that, but if I want, one of the hopes as a father is you get to walk your daughter down the aisle someday. And this was the only chance I would have of that. So I took it, and that was hard, but it was probably the one of the most powerful acts I think I'll ever carry with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And it is amazing how small an infant's casket is.
It truly is.
I've been pallbearer for a grandfather, a grandmother, an aunt. An adult casket is big, but an infant's casket literally fits in your arms. It's humbling to be able to lift them and carry them and then lay them down. So now, how has recovery been for you? There's a saying that you move forward, not move on.
Yeah.
The point of your life before you found out that your daughter didn't have a heartbeat, your life before is completely different from the life after. You don't forget, you continue on with that new perspective of life. How has your recovery been for you and your family?
Well, what you said really is pretty much exactly where my mind went, because when people would say, how are you doing? For a little while, my answer was just, I'm different now.
Yeah.
You know, not that I'm broken, not that I am done, not that I'm any of these things,
And
but I
it's not that
am
you can't be
different.
that either. It's,
Yeah.
it's okay to be broken. It's okay to be, done for
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
But
Just kind of the grieving process. The biggest thing to note was that my wife and I grieved at very different paces.
mhm.
And that's not to say, I was further along than she was, or she was further along than I am, because, the whole thing was a loop de loop. So all of a sudden I'm further along than she's having an issue with this. Now I'm not, like she was in kind of she held on to denial for a while, thinking like she could have saved her or something. Since we had previously lost a child just to an early term miscarriage, we talked a lot about the book of Job, about she might say, everything will be okay. But even when she was pregnant, I told her, you don't know that. And that's okay. But things might not be. Things might not, quote unquote, happen, all work out in the end. Quote unquote, all work out in the end. But that's okay, because whatever we did receive was still something that we received as that gift.
Mhm.
For me, it was pretty hard for a while. I mean, every day I broke down at least once in some way, shape, or form. Since I was working from home by myself, it was just real. It was real quiet. Not a whole lot of solace to take, because even just something as simple as going on a mini road trip to go get our mind off things or whatever, it was still the day of coronavirus.
Yeah.
Like we lost our daughter, and by the end of that week, that's 1 week, and I was pretty new to my job. She was pretty new to her job. We didn't have a ton of PTO or anything, so we didn't really have a ton of options. From that Monday when we lost my daughter, we were both back to work 2 weeks later, and whether that was enough or too much, not enough, I don't think we could ever truly qualify,
Mhm.
because we could have taken more time. There would have been issues with that. We could have gone sooner. There would have been issues with that.
Yeah.
Just the decision we made just seemed to be the most appropriate. And yeah, and you could spend all day even just like kind of balancing. Should I have done?
Yeah.
Should we have done it like this? Should we have done it like that? But should I have won't ever warrant an actual answer that's going to make a difference. So I will say that we did as good as we could.
That's a good way to put it. You did as good as you could. Because in all reality, there's a million things that influence every decision after every decision you make in these situations. Like you said, could you have gone longer? Maybe. But like you said, there would have been complications with that. And yeah, hopefully you're not stuck in a bad thought loop, like, we should have done that, or we should have done this, and stuff like that. So
yeah, because it's an easy loop to get into.
Yeah, and it's not a helpful loop. So,
Oh,
well, Tad, is there anything else you would like to tell us about your daughter Hazel before we wrap up this podcast?
yeah. So
Please.
Probably the most difficult thing about that situation is that we had an autopsy done,
Mm-hmm.
but it returned no conclusive results.
Yeah.
So there were no abnormalities. She did have a single chromosomal deletion that was so obscure that it had it looked like computer code. It was like XQA 123, something like that. And that's really, but we were also told that that wouldn't contribute to loss. So it was difficult not knowing, but at the same time, it wouldn't have changed anything if we did know. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we, as little of the time as we had, we got to hold and love our daughter and experience life as a family as much as we did.
That's the truth. In all reality, you were able to be there with your wife and your daughter for what little time it was.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tad.
Yeah, of course.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.